We feel so fortunate, number one, that we got through the whole season, 7 weeks of baseball. We didn't lose a game to weather. And more importantly, we didn't lose a game or an athlete to COVID. There were a couple of minor injuries, but they were only physical injuries, not a big deal. So we were extremely fortunate, if not blessed, to actually get through it all in the right timing. But to answer your question, back in March when all this hit, you're right, we're sitting around going, what the heck do we do? How do we stay viable? How do we still be a team? And a lot of my conversations began with Andy down in Lexington about how do we deal with the state, communicate with the state to at least open our facility, number one, for kids, and then secondarily for maybe professional baseball. We spent a good couple of months trying to deal with the state and get things open. And as things started to come to fruition in terms of a definite cancellation of the Frontier League season, then minor league baseball, the questions became, the state will allow us to open. Now, can we play baseball and can we do it safely together? The fact that we're only 70 miles apart, we were able to put teams in both cities, no buses, no hotels, everyone has to drive themselves, everything's COVID friendly to the best that we can do it. And we took a chance, put the teams together. Glad we did. We were very, very fortunate that we were one of maybe a dozen cities in the country that played baseball in front of fans. I'll let you know right now, we in Florence put the most fans in the seats of any baseball team in 2020.
Hey, what's up, Florence Nation, and welcome again back inside the suites here at UC Health Stadium. It is episode 8 of the Game Report, a Battle of the Bourbon Trail Championship edition. It's going to be a great show. You've probably already known the results of this past weekend series, but we're going to dive in head first. We got the coaches here, Dennis Pelfrey, manager of the Freedom and the San Jose Giants, Advanced Day affiliate in the San Francisco Giants organization. Brian White, the manager of the Y'alls, who is off and rolling, starting a tremendous coaching career here in Florence. We'll tell you more about that in a moment. And Chad Rhodes, of course, the Battle of the Bourbon Trail pitching coordinator. Guys, let's just dive right in. 3-game championship series over the weekend. The All-Star game at the World Series. So the Florence teams provided their best players merging into one team. Lexington did the exact same thing. And as we saw in the regular season, Florence rose to the forefront. It was the Florence All-Stars, 2-1, grabbing that Battle of the Bourbon Trail championship. We'll start with Pelf to kind of talk about what you saw up in the broadcast booth on Game 3 yesterday and save the on-field discussions for a moment later.
Yeah, it was neat. It was neat to see, and I think we've talked about it already. The first time it's ever been an All-Star series. So this whole league, we changed up a lot of things as far as how baseball is played and how baseball is viewed, I guess, from a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint. The extra inning rule. And just how this thing all kind of came together. So one thing I was a little upset with, though, is we dominated Lexington all year. The Florence teams were the best 2 teams in the league, and yet we didn't have home field advantage. So I understand we had to play the second game there, the third games there because we had an event here, but I think Brian White should have been the home team yesterday. Yeah. But either way, it worked out really well, and it was exciting to see, and we absolutely dominated.
So, Brian, take us onto the field with you yesterday. It's a winner-take-all, Game 3 of the Battle of the Bourbon Trail Championship Series. We saw in Game 2, Lexington even the series 1 game apiece, 13-5 the final score in that one. What was your message to the team going in to Game 3 yesterday to kind of just clear the decks, keep them loose, and obviously set them up for a big performance and a championship win?
Right. I mean, it's baseball, so games like that are going to happen. I think that everybody felt like that we're the better team as long as we showed up prepared and came ready to play, and I think that's exactly what we did. It was a quick turnaround. I think we finished around 11 o'clock that night, came back at midnight, had to jump right back out of bed and get up there the next morning. So, there wasn't a whole lot of time to think or let it really sit and linger from that loss the night before. And we showed up, they were excited, ready to go. We knew that we had all of our arms were loaded in the bullpen, so we were pretty excited and felt like that we had the advantage until that last game of the series.
So talking about the arms, perfect segue for Chad Rhodes to dive into the discussion here. We saw Lars the Gory, big game Lars, make the start yesterday. Got the first 2 outs in the first inning, but was taken out of the game after 8 batters. Jonathan Tripp stepped in. talk to us a little bit about how you built the rotation, or I guess the alignment of pitchers yesterday.
Oh no, it was all free reign for Bryan. You know, we kind of set all the arms we wanted for the All-Star game. We'll touch on a couple guys that didn't get to get in there. Wags, we didn't get to see Wags in there. We didn't get to see Nick Floyd. Bernal was, had a little tenderness, and and then Carl, obviously, same thing. We didn't get to get Drew Rom some innings, but it was inevitable, the series and the way it turned out. I mean, it didn't matter what they had on that side, especially when it came down to that third game. I just think it was inevitable. Even if you go in there and saying we're going to go up 7 today, it didn't matter. And it wasn't like, to me, it wasn't a 7 that we gave up that was a threatening. I mean, it was never so. It doesn't matter because he's going to still keep coming, and it's going to be a difficult route for anybody. But I think the series turned out the way it needed to turn out, and the way it was supposed to turn out, and the way that it should have. So it was awesome to see all those guys work and kind of implement their skills in those situations they got put in. Tripp was huge yesterday, coming in for Lars, just spitting out some close pitches from Lars, and he couldn't find the edges. And it is a big game for everybody. It was a big game for the team. I know he wanted that back, and we talked to him after that. And I say, maybe we start all over, we do it again, But it didn't work out. Tripp came in. It was nice. Gave us some length. It was really good. He was really sharp. Competed well. He finally kind of bought into who he was. It was cool to see. And then being able to bring in the guys that kind of been locked down throughout the season for both teams. We got McDonald, Cheek, and Doherty, and that's not a knock on anybody else in that bullpen, but it was, hey, when it's on the line, and the championship's on the line, and the dudes are ready, they want to go.
Can't leave those bullets in the chamber.
Unloading it. So it was, I think it was inevitable.
One thing I want to talk to Bryan and Dennis about here is the ability we saw of the team all season long to play from behind in games, to not hit the panic button early. It was Lexington yesterday. 3 more first-inning runs. They got on the board first. They kind of set the tone offensively. They were getting to play at home, as controversial as that might be, having the home field advantage. But you guys always use all 9 innings or all 7 on Wednesdays. No panic ever. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at both lineups and they're both stacked. You know that their lineup, really 1 through 9 is loaded over there. But we felt real confident in the arms that we had in the bullpen, more so than what they had left in theirs. So as long as we got to the bullpen, somewhat early in the game, there was never any panic or any hesitation. All of our guys can hit, all of our guys can swing, and they run pretty well at the same time. So we knew that we were going to produce runs. It was just a matter of when, not if. And then once we got our guys out of the bullpen and in there, everybody felt confident, and they felt like that we should have won that game, and we did.
Pelf,
It's easy. The culture, the structure that we create, nobody wants to lose, and nobody wants to try to be the hero. They pass it off, and it's. We talked about it. We talked about it, after game 2 or in the post game where you asked me, what's it going to take? What does Brian White need to do? And it starts from the top. As long as the manager is calm and the body language and the mannerisms are, dictating a positive vibe, you guys are going to win. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I think that, I got a text from somebody in the first inning, down 3. Hey, what's wrong with the guys? They look sleepy. And I'm like, they're okay. It's okay. Just sit back and watch, because it's going to happen. And you can see it developing the whole game, just like the night before. You take away all the 2 RBI hits they had, and Florence wins in 2 games. I mean, it's pretty easy. It was the most incredible thing I've seen the team do from their side. I think 11 of those runs were scored with 2 outs, and 10 or 11 of the 15 hits they had were 2 outs. So it's like a fluke type thing, and maybe to give them some false confidence. But at the end of the day, the better team won.
No question about that. All season long, the Florence teams were the top teams in the Battle of Bourbon Trail. 22-14 for the Florence Y'alls, 22-13 for the Florence Freedom. Left no doubt and got it done in a best-of-3 over the weekend. Final score of Game 3 yesterday was 10-7. Florence took their first lead in the 5th inning with a 4-run frame and never looked back from there. But as you can see, we got a special guest joining us now on the Game Report, Episode 8, being a championship edition and the Battle of the Bourbon Trail coming to a close with your team, the Florence All-Stars, taking home the trophy. We'll start with just kind of your reaction to that. Owner David DelBello here in Florence talking to us a little bit about the teams that he helped put together as far as bringing the coaches in and building this Battle of Bourbon Trail, and it's your teams that take home the championship. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. We're just here to, we just facilitated this. This is all about what Brian and Dennis were able to do and the people that were put on the field. we were fortunate that we had two experienced managers come in and join us, and they brought some good talent to us. It was obvious throughout the regular season, and as you said, it's surprising we even went 3 games. I totally expected us to win. So, well done, guys. Thank you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Battle of the Bourbon Trail as a whole. I mean, as you look around the professional baseball landscape, most teams we're going home. We're hoping 2021 is a little bit better for us. I mean, affiliated minor league baseball, no season this year. A lot of leagues, including the Frontier League, canceling their season. But there was never any quit in you. We obviously, as staff members of your organization, really appreciate how you allowed us to have an opportunity to come to work every day, even during a global pandemic. And then you put this Battle of the Bourbon Trail together. You bring Brian White on board in the offseason when Pelf leaves for San Jose, but then you get Pelf back because minor league baseball is canceled. Kind of talk to us about how this came together and obviously how satisfied I'm sure you are with the end result.
Oh, absolutely. We feel so fortunate, number one, that we got through the whole season. 7 weeks of baseball. We didn't lose a game to weather. And more importantly, we didn't lose a game or an athlete to COVID. There were a couple of minor injuries, but they were only physical injuries, not a big deal. So we were extremely fortunate, if not blessed, to actually get through it all in the right timing. But to answer your question, back in March when all this hit, you're right, we're sitting around going, what the heck do we do? How do we stay viable? How do we still be a team? And a lot of my conversations began with Andy down in Lexington about how do we deal with the state, communicate with the state to at least open our facility, number one, for kids, and then secondarily for maybe professional baseball. We spent a good couple of months trying to deal with the state and get things open. And as things started to come to fruition in terms of a definite cancellation of the Frontier League season, then minor league baseball, the questions became, the state will allow us to open. Now, can we play baseball and can we do it safely together? The fact that we're only 70 miles apart, we were able to put teams in both cities, no buses, no hotels, everyone has to drive themselves, everything's COVID friendly to the best that we can do it. And we took a chance, put the teams together. Glad we did. We were very, very fortunate that we were one of maybe a dozen cities in the country that played baseball in front of fans. I'll let you know right now, we in Florence put the most fans in the seats of any baseball team in 2020.
Yeah.
Any professional baseball team. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah. An absolute accomplishment, and a compliment to you, a compliment to the coaches who brought in some incredible talent again this season. A lot of people may have thought with the Frontier League season being canceled, this might be more of a glorified men's league. Absolutely not the case. AAA guys, AA guys, affiliated guys, and guys that will probably be in affiliated baseball in 2021 playing for the Y'alls here in Florence. So much talent over the field, and ultimately the Florence teams were the top teams in this. You already kind of mentioned the fans. I wanted to ask you about that, David, since we got you on here. Talk to us a little bit about fan appreciation, the All-Star festivities leading up to the big weekend championship series. Seemed like a roaring success from the field. Fan appreciation, everybody got in free. They got to watch a skills competition, a home run derby. You had to be satisfied with the way that turned out.
It was a lot of fun. So well done, Brian, putting that together. Yeah, it was our fan appreciation day. We took it away from a typical game as we've done in the past. Let people in for free. Had a lot of giveaways, a lot of interaction. The interaction with the players was unique. We obviously couldn't get our fans close to them because of COVID, but just the fact that you were on the field with the mic, people enjoyed it because it was very personal and it was a lot of fun. The competition you guys put together on the field was a lot of fun. There's no doubt that our fans appreciated it.
I don't think there's any question about that. What a show in the home run derby as well. It's Harry DeNicola that takes home the home run derby championship. Brian, talk to us a little bit about Harry and a guy that came over. He was buddies with Chad in the Miami Marlins organization, played together over there with Batavia Muck Dogs. So a guy that you know well as well. That's what I know. You guys were the battery mates there.
Last year.
Yeah, and an incredible display. 12 home runs in the final round to win the home run derby. But I'm sure you probably knew that was coming.
Yeah, he was in the back of my head. Kind of as a favorite to win. I still went with Blaze as my dark horse to win it all. Then once Harry chose Chad, I told Harry, hey, man, we're going to beat you tonight. I know you're on my team, but we got you tonight. And sure enough, they did it together, though. Chad was being the money VP, and Harry just got on the roll and got on fire and did what he does, just puts the ball over that right field fence almost at ease and made it look really easy.
Well, I thought it made the coaches look really smart because you guys talked about a lot of dark horse candidates. I think Dudley Taw's name came up, as did Blaze Fees. Both those guys were in the Final Four, and Dudley Taw was actually the guy taking on Harry in the finals. I believe you were throwing the BP to Dudley. I'm sure you always knew that was in him. Were you not throwing to Dudley? That was Brian White.
Yeah.
Oh, so Pell, if your BP was average.
Yeah.
None of your guys moved
below
along.
average. There was 3 guys throwing. I was the 3rd place guy, so I was below average.
Well, that's
the first time in my
throw to
career.
5 guys.
Yeah, I threw to a lot of guys, but that doesn't matter. The first time in my career, I've never at least been in the finals of a home run derby as a thrower, so my career's on the downfall, I think.
That stings, I'm sure.
We always wanted to stack up who was the best VP thrower.
Always.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, as it was, Dudley Taw, what a show for him, another dark horse guy, and a guy that didn't play a whole lot for the Y'alls, and Freedom came midway through the Battle of the Bourbon Trail, but man, so much talent in that guy's future. He's just in college right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you,
we'll talk about him.
he didn't play a whole lot at all, and there was a reason for that, because he came in late, he came in for the experience and to be around some of these guys, and early on, he was with the Y'alls, and, you know, same situation, not really playing a whole lot, if at all, really. I don't think he had much.
2 stars maybe.
2 starts, a couple of bats. But, so we saw that, and there was a couple guys on my team that Brian wanted to look at for possible next season, Y'alls guys, so I said, hey, just give me Dudley Tall. I'll use him as an emergency type guy, but he can learn a lot from guys like Chad Sedio, Craig Massey, some of the older guys, and be in the dugout and kind of learn that way. And it was, I mean, it's an education you can't pay for, what he got, and he's going back to college, got 2 years of eligibility, and he's going there with, you know, at least a few at-bats more than what his college teammates are, but the experience and knowledge that he's going to bring to the table and help other kids too.
No doubt about it. Brian, you brought him in. He was a Y'all originally, I believe, this season. Where did you find him? How did you discover him, and what did you see?
So Steve Hagan, pitcher for us a couple of years ago, he's actually coaching at a school up north, and that's where Daly goes to school at. So he kind of reached out to me, and Kenny Pearson knows him as well. So hey, I got this guy that just wants to come. He's still in college, pretty good talent, good guy, obviously, to be around. Just kind of wants to come in and learn. So we grabbed him, took him in, and then, like Paul said, he wasn't really getting the playing time. Our team was a lot younger, so there wasn't really anybody's brain that he can go out and pick as often as he could over in the points dugout. So I think we're in the Freedom dugout. So I think it worked out perfect switching him over there, and we sat him down and talked to him and said, hey, I think it's just a better situation. Even if you're not going to get as much playing time, you're going to be around those guys every day, and you're going to be around Pelf a lot, so you can kind of pick his brain, and he's going to talk to you to see what you can get better at and what you can work on. And the kid's a stud. He still has 2 years left of eligibility, which is amazing. And he already looks like a professional athlete right now, so I'm excited to see where he's going to be at in a couple of years.
Dudley Tall looks phenomenal, as did really all the players that dressed in either Florence Y'alls or Florence Freedom uniforms this year. Again, this weekend, it all culminated in a 3-game championship series with the Lexington Legends All-Stars, and it was your Florence teams that rose to the forefront, taking 2 of 3 to capture the Battle of the Bourbon Trail Championship Series. So let's kind of shift the focus back to that weekend series. First game here on Friday night at UC Health Stadium. You guys got off and rolling in the right direction, 5-3, played from behind early again, but always using all 9 innings. Come back and win 5-3 to set that tone. How big was that, Brian, getting that first win of the series under your belt, knowing that you have 2 more to play if necessary, but you're in the driver's seat to win this thing in a short 2 games if needed?
And what's the number, I think, if you win the first game of a 3-game series? It's about a 75-80% chance to win the series. So we knew that one was big. We're going to use our weapons that game. Obviously, going up 1-0, you can do a little bit more things with the next 2 days. Obviously, if you're going down 0-1, then you got to... Sorry. Siri.
We're being watched at all times.
Yeah.
Listen to everything.
For sure.
But, if you go down 0-1, then you have to play your cards a little differently for the next day. It's win at all costs the next day. And we had the luxury of not having that pressure on us. Obviously we want to win in 2 games, but it just didn't really work out on our bench. But being able to come back from game 1, it was a cold day here, but the crowd was awesome. There was a ton of people in the stands. They were very energetic out there, so we were able to kind of feed off the crowd a little bit, and it was just a matter of time before we got back into the game, and I think everybody saw what we were able to do and be able to close the door late in the game right there with Joe Doherty.
One thing that we did see play out in the series was the Florence teams managed it more like an all-star game. You had a big roster of very talented guys, a lot of depth in the bullpen. We'll talk to Chad about that in this series, but you didn't have any of your starters go out there and waste all their bullets in game 1, go 7 innings, go 8 innings, only get a couple of guys into the series, and yeah, the rest of you were all-stars, but you never got a chance to play. You guys managed it like an all-star game, and we saw it for 3 different games. A lot of guys coming in, kind of whole staff efforts, but really good arms, one after another. Chad, talk to us about, I know you said Brian kind of had free reign in game 3, But you guys did seem to have a script you were following in that series.
There's always a script as far as the flow of the game, who's going to fit better into that piece and puzzle and kind of bridge it. There's always somebody. And that was kind of what we watched as the game played out. We got to see those situations early in the game, where we brought in Tripp, and the situation lines up right. There was about 3 or 4 different guys for options that rolled into as the game was going. As far as matchups coming up here, there's a left, right, left. We could fit some guy in here. We had some other guys up, stretching, moving around to finish some innings because it's their role. That's you put guys in their role to succeed. So there was a couple spots that never really came to fruition as far as being able to get those guys hot and get them in for those situations because the guy who was in there continued to do his job the right way. So we kept passing the stick to the right guy in the right spot that he's been in. It's going to make him successful, and it just so happened it worked out well in the All-Star game against guys who it didn't really matter. I mean, once those guys got their role and then they were in the game, it was clockwork. The first series we had Edgar starting off the game. Always go get his new haircut. Got his new spikes flown in. He's a gamer. He wanted to be here. He wanted to pitch that game. And I like the way he attacked. I thought he set a good tone. And that whole game the first one was fun. It was really fun. It was exciting. It was tight, back and forth. The crowd was good. I said that on that fan appreciation night, which you can't really hear me down on the field, is that part of the reason that this season went so well was due to the fact that David was able to be able to get people here and have what we had. Like, it wouldn't have been the same without people in the stands. For the guys' development, for their career, for what they saw it as, and then the care and the passion they put into it, it would not have been the same without anybody in the stands. And being able to have people, because I thought we were a little worried about it because of cold weather. So, man, is anybody going to be there for that series? Yeah. And we showed up, and it's like, oh, let's do it, let's go. And even over there, it was we traveled well over there. I really liked that. We traveled well. It was loud in both games. Even yesterday, 2 o'clock game on Sunday. Nice day, but there was people there.
They're in the middle of NFL Sunday.
It was
right
in the middle.
Packed, and there's a lot of Florence people there.
It was awesome.
Cheering us on.
So there's always adrenaline, and there's always something for those pitchers to get up for, especially their spots in those situations. The last game of the year, I mean, it was awesome. Man. It couldn't have turned out any better as far as getting to be able to see guys when they came in to the spots and positions, pitching against the guys they were pitching against that they never thought they'd be pitching against, and succeeding and beating them. It was cool.
And for some of the Florence players, this was their first real opportunity to play kind of on that big stage. And you talked about that a lot in episode 1 of the Game Report, Chad, just seeing what these guys are going to do when they get out there on the mound and there's people watching them. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like what we saw in this series over the weekend was the players that were wearing Florence uniforms, no matter who it was, in that spotlight, you got the best out of them. Talk to us a little bit about stepping up and playing on a big stage, pal.
Well, I mean, I want to go back first and foremost to the fans and the players. We talk about both those things. Coming into this thing, I think you mentioned it, everybody's kind of weary on what it's going to be. Is it going to be a glorified men's league? Is it going to be, something that was just thrown together and it wasn't? But people needed to see what it was before they could really kind of buy in and, be a part of it. And, at the end of the day, the fans here in Florence, like I said, I think I threw out a tweet last night about it. Over the last 6 years, and this year included, the fan support we've had here has been incredible. It's better than anywhere I've ever been as far as independent baseball, and maybe not necessarily the attendance. I don't know those numbers, but it's pretty close. We're one of the best in the Frontier League for sure. And I'm talking in the country in independent baseball. But the following we have and the support system we have from the fans is second to none, and that plays a big role in a lot of it. And then, secondly, Brian White's first year, and this is the same thing. Somebody's coming in thinking, a little weary on, well, how's Brian going to be? It doesn't matter. Like, it's cool that he was with me for 5 years, got to see how I did it. It's cool he got to be around Chad, for most of that time via phone calls. At any time he could call Chad up, and some other guys he's been around. But at the end of the day, he's got to be himself, and he's got to be the best him, right? And it's like we talk about with the players. So everything is the same. We deal with everybody the same. We deal with the fans the same way. We deal with the players the same way. The front office, like, if we're truthful and we're honest and we're being who we're supposed to be in front of the same people. It doesn't matter who you are. I think that's what really makes it genuine and wholesome. And that's why the fans really like us. That's why we're successful. And it doesn't matter. It could be me, it could be Chad, it could be Brian. We're all different. We do things differently. We see things differently. But at the end of the day, Brian White gets to show Florence that he can bring a championship here. So you got to be happy with that. And with the same type of mentality, doing it a little bit different way, still at the end of the day, it's success. That's what all you can ask for.
I'll tell you right now, that championship that was won was an impressive one because that Lexington team took on a couple of different faces as the season played on. And yesterday in Game 3, it was 4 former major leaguers who weren't major leaguers in the 80s. They weren't even in the 90s. These are guys that are just wrapping up their major league careers, can all still play. Brandon Phillips, to highlight the list. Ben Revere, a first-round pick, and a guy that got a second contract in Major League Baseball. Eric Young Jr., his dad played in Major League Baseball forever. EY played for 10 years, 5 different teams. Really good players, first 4 hitters in their lineup, and yet Florence win after win after win late in the season, and that is a reflection of coaching. So let's talk to Brian about the first year as the manager here in Florence. Obviously, you'd been around professional baseball. You were Pelf's right-hand man for the last 5 seasons in Florence, so you weren't a stranger to the atmosphere and to the environment. But what was that first season like being the guy leading the bench, and how did you feel you progressed throughout the course of that season?
Oh, it was good, and I think I said earlier during the season on one of these shows, selfishly, this worked out great for me because I get to have these 2 guys that I can pick their brain on. They'll hold me accountable, and I can ask them, what would you done in this situation? What would you do differently? Or where did I mess up at? Or what can I do better? I know that they're going to always be upfront with me and tell me the truth, whereas if I came in on my own this year, I might not have someone like that to hold me accountable inside the clubhouse. So it was awesome having those 2 guys around and, having the confidence with these 2 guys around me. Obviously gets me feeling better, and it's going to, once I feel better, the team's going to feel better because they're going to feed off my energy. So just being able to have that domino effect has been huge, but it started, 4 or 5 years ago whenever he got the job. He set the tone early, then I just had to come in and keep it going is really what it came down to. It's not like I'm completely coming in here and changing everything. I love the way he does things. I love the way Chad does things. I got my pitching stuff with him. So I'm very blessed in the aspect that, I have these 2 guys that give me the knowledge that I have and still wanting to grow and still, I'm still going to be learning. I'm still learning all the time. And it starts with them. So I'm very thankful for that. As far as the season, it was fun, it was exciting. I've done a college season before on my own, so I've had small experience, but not at a stage like this, with a talent like this as well. But I was able to get 30, 40 games under my belt, being the guy over there in a smaller environment. So it was a few years ago, but I was able to kind of take some of those ideas that worked for me over there and bring them in and incorporate them over here. And it was a different style that Pelp had, but at the end of the day, it's for the player's best interest in my heart. Same with these 2 guys. I know that as long as you have the player's best interest, you're going to get the most out of them. And as long as that you have communication, show that you care, and wanting to work with those guys. So I was very, very grateful for the opportunity that I got this year. Even though it is a COVID season, but it was a great learning experience at the same time.
Well, so Pelf, very rarely do you get to see a guy that steps in to fill your shoes get to coach with you and around you for the entire summer. So how did you evaluate Brian White's first year as a manager, and what areas were you most impressed with his growth from day one to taking home the championship yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it was, obviously going into the season, I'm thinking that I'm going to have to figure out a way to watch your broadcast while I'm playing, but in San Jose, we were going to be 3 hours
earlier
behind you guys, so I was going to have some time there to be able to watch and obviously keep track of Florence, because there was going to be some guys that I had signed still with him, I'm sure. He might have came in and cleaned house, I don't know. But it looked like the roster was going to kind of shape up real similar to what we've always had, the style and the type of players. So in all honesty, and I think I told David, the owner here in Florence, that when I found out I got the job in San Jose, I drove up here because I left a lot of my stuff here in the apartment, and so I came up to get that, and they still hadn't made a decision on who the manager was going to be, and it was between a couple guys, including Brian, and we talked a little bit about it, and I put my name on him, and because I'm not worried about what he's going to bring to the table, and I think the quote I gave to David and Josh Anderson at the time, who was the GM, is if you like the culture here, what we've created, and that goes with everything, like the fan support, it comes back to everything, not just the baseball side, because they all work together really well. In most independent clubs, it's not like that. The front office and the baseball side are two separate entities, and they're button heads all the time. And here we created that atmosphere, not only with the baseball side, but with the front office side, with the broadcasting side. You could come to me at any time and ask a question, and I'd answer it, right?
Right.
Same with Bryan, I think, with all these guys. So that's the type of relationships and the type of culture we've created. So my point was, if you like this culture, if you think it's good, then you need to hire Bryan White. If you want something else, because nobody else is going to be able to do it, nobody's going to be able to do it like me. But Bryan White has a good idea of how to create a culture and create a culture similar. And he doesn't need to create my culture. He doesn't need to keep my culture. He needs to have his own. So he's going to be able to blend the two together and create something. And I said it from day one. I said it to Bryan before. He's going to be better than me. He's going to be. Now, it's not going to be this year, but 5 years from now, he's going to be better than I was, because he's had myself, he's had Chad Rhodes, he's had Greg Taggart, all these guys that we've put him around, and for that reason, just like we want the players, when they come in, we want them to be better than when they got here. And not because we can make them better as coaches, but we have the culture and the people around them to make them better. Just like when David hires somebody in the front office, the culture that's created in the front office is going to make that person better, not just being there, right? So I think that's the whole idea behind it, and it's going to be awesome to watch. And he's going to be able to do something that I didn't, is bring a Frontier League championship here to Florence, and I firmly believe that.
Well, we talked about it last week. We do want to kind of start diving into the staff dynamics. This is a very special group of coaches that are sitting here in the suite at UC Hell Stadium, and it wasn't just randomly selected. I think Lexington may have found guys in their area to come back and to coach in this Battle of the Bourbon Trail, but that's not exactly the case here. We got 3 Texas dudes sitting here right now that made a long trip back up to Florence to be here for this thing, and this wasn't the first year you guys have been together. So we'll start with Chad, kind of talking about how you got the call to join this thing this year. You're a guy that was in Florence. You were Pell's original pitching coach, I believe, right, in 2015? And then you got the Miami Marlins opportunity from here in Florence. So your background started kind of here.
It did. I think if you dig a little bit deeper in that, I can go back a couple of years.
To Gary?
No, keep going. So, I guess when I was playing in Gary was when I met Pelf, and it was after that year in 12, in the Fort Worth in 13. He called me. I was hustling, doing lessons, driving an hour and a half, do lessons for 10 hours a day, and then driving an hour and a half back home, just grinding it out. And he called me right before the season in Fort Worth, United League.
United League, yep.
And asked me if I wanted to be a pitch coach, and I was all over it. I was all over it. Didn't know what was going to happen after that season. Ended up being...
Let me tell the best story, though. The best part of the story is 2012, I'm the hitting coach for Gary, or assistant coach. I don't even know what my title was. It didn't really matter. I think I was janitor. I don't know. I was just doing a lot of stuff. But I'm a high school head coach at South Grand Prairie High School in Grand Prairie, Texas. And Taggart calls me. He's like, "Hey, we just signed this guy, Chad Rhodes. He lives there in Texas. I've never seen him. Can you get him out and throw at your high school?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. He's a pitcher or whatever. I'll bring him and have him throw against our kids." I call him up. He lives in Bowie, Texas, which is about two hours, almost 2 hours from South Grand Prairie High School. He's out in the sticks, But obviously, Texas is the best country in the world. We talked about that before. So I bring back, comes out, and he comes walking up. He doesn't have the hair he's got now, so he's clean cut, he's wiry, and get him out there. And I had no idea. This time I'm not really looking up. There's no scouting reports out there saying how hard a guy throws or anything. So I'm putting him up against these sophomores in high school so he can get his live innings. And we're going to bring him out once a week. First pitch out of his hands, like 96. I'm like, oh my God, these high school kids are just getting blown away, right? So I think he ends up touching a 98 or a 99 that day. So that's how we met. I was like, oh, this kid's going to be good. So he's playing for Gary, and then I head up to Gary in 2012 to coach or whatever, and he's there. And we don't get to talk a whole lot at that point, but that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, and then that season ended up, there was some family stuff I had to take care of, so the season ended a little bit shorter for me. But that was all going to push me into my coaching career, and I didn't really know it at the time. Wasn't really frustrated about it, but I was willing to put all my energy into something same way I did on the playing. It's all out, man. You go all out. So when I made that transition into coaching, it was I'm going all out for this, because the window to get to where I wanted to get when I was playing, it's so much bigger when you coach. You kind of have an endless route. But he gave me an opportunity in Fort Worth. That little connection we had in Gary. Jumped over, had to take the reins. Took the reins in Fort Worth, and we kind of headed that thing up, and we saw how our dynamic together kind of made everybody else around us play to the best of their ability. And we fed off each other really well as far as the yin and yang type of thing in the dugout and the clubhouse. That turned into Gary the next year, and then you got the job here in Florence, and brought me on as well. So I wouldn't have a coach career if it wasn't for him. So, and then I got the Marlins opportunity from some connections I had back in baseball. But he calls me after, because I was supposed to be in China this year. I was supposed to be in China for the past 4 or 5 months. But I didn't have a whole lot going on. I was working, doing the lessons, hustling again, and that's just is what it is. I enjoy doing it. But he called me and asked me to come out here, and yeah, let's do it. We all get to be together. And Bryan was in Fort Worth too, on the same team.
Yeah.
And
as a player.
Yeah. So we knew Bryan. Bryan came in at 15, bullpen coach,
and Bryan came through South Grand Prairie as well, but I think it was after you were gone before he came, right?
Yeah. Well, funny thing is, I knew both of y'all separately before I knew that y'all even knew each other.
Really?
That's what was weird, because
I worked at Texas Wesleyan.
Oh, that's right.
So my senior year, I was at Texas Wesleyan, and he helped out in the fall with the pitchers. I didn't get to know him because he was always with the pitchers all the time, and I was with the hitters or whatever. But I had a couple conversations with him. I knew who he was. I knew that the guys loved him. And then all of a sudden, I show up in Fort Worth because our home field was the Fort Worth Catsfield in college. So I got the invite from the GM to come to camp and earn a spot on the team. And it just happened. I just show up. I didn't know he was going to be there. I didn't know he was going to be there. I was like, what are y'all two doing here? I haven't seen him since I was in high school. Then, Chad just kind of got up and left. I didn't know what his situation was. I thought that was coming back in the spring, but he just had the fall gig or whatever that he made the agreement with. I just showed up in the clubhouse, and I didn't know that they knew each other previously, and they were best friends coming into it. I had no idea. It was just blown away. I was like, is our pitching coach, our hitting coach? Like, I'm in love with this already. It was awesome.
Incredible. The amount of interwoven connections from you three guys sitting here. Who knew that way back then, 2015 or beforehand, that you guys would end up in the Battle of Bourbon Trail, coaching together, eyes on one common prize that you accomplished this past Sunday. So congratulations to all you guys on that front. I think it's part of the reason why your teams always play so loose and always come together so quickly in seasons, because, and obviously you guys aren't all three together every season, but B. White and Pelf have been the last couple, and Chad was no drop-off at all coming in this year. It just added to it, but because of your guys' close-knit nature, the coaching staff's close, the continuity is always there, you guys always keep it loose. That becomes infectious to your teams, I believe. They're always kind of a reflection of the coaching staff, and no wonder your guys always have the most fun and seem to play like they're already gelled and bonded by week 2 of the season, as we saw this year.
Yeah, the players want to play here, and there's reasons for that. It's because we do have a good time, but we do get the best out of the players, and it shows. More guys get picked up out of here. We have the best fans. We have the best front office. Everybody wants to be a part of a miracle. I always say that. Everybody wants to be a part of a miracle. This is a miracle. This is what it is. This is the best of the best coming around, and I think it all starts with the structure you create and the expectations you have, and you can stem off that stuff. But as long as it always goes back to those core values of the expectations, this is what's expected of me. We can deviate off that a little bit and have some fun, but enjoy it. But I always talk about, this is where everybody wants to be, whether it's the big leagues or you want to be the best husband or best father. This is where you are now. You're going to be whatever you're going to be. You're going to be this at some point. No matter what it is, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of, do you stay on that path to that, or are you taking deviated paths? But at the end of the day, are you enjoying that path to get there? And I think that's why people want to be here.
I think one thing people would like to know, too, is kind of your paths individually to coaching. I know I've got some points I want to make on Chad's front with that. I had a good conversation with him after a game the other day as to kind of when he started to realize he wanted to be a coach. But people want to know that stuff. So we'll start with B. White. Obviously, you were the pitching coach the last 5 years with Dennis Pelfrey. But I'm sure the itch to coach and to be a manager is not something that you just found this offseason when Pelf moved on. Kind of talk to us about your playing days and when you kind of knew that you were going to have your eyes on coaching when your career was over.
All right. Really at Texas Wesleyan, my senior year, I knew that it was kind of before I knew that I was going to have the opportunity to keep playing. And I was thinking, like, I was 22, 23 years old, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life at the time. Then we have our exit meetings, and I was going to bring up being a graduate assistant, but, sure enough, Mike Jeffco at the time was our head coach, and he asked me before I even got the chance to ask him if I wanted to come on and be a graduate assistant and, work to potentially earn my master's degree and get some money, some school money, and be out there with the guys. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but, I knew I didn't want baseball to be over for me yet, so I took up the opportunity. Then he did give me that job out in Colorado while I was the head coach for that summer team. It was at the same time, he asked me that same year if I wanted to come out and be the bullpen coach, and I had already promised, that summer league I was going to do that, so I stuck and glued to that. And then I fell in love with coaching that year, when I really got to enjoy it. I bounced around, a couple of junior colleges as well as coaching. I couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do because the college level here is so much different. It's so much more free here. And the better talented guys that want to be here versus you get some college kids that are still playing to make mom and dad happy and stuff like that. So once I got into this atmosphere, I know I want to do this. I love it. I love being out here. I love being with these guys. And I'm enjoying it, whatever the money is, I'll figure out the money situation whenever that time comes. But I knew I loved coaching. And then I think I called you maybe in 16 or 17. I was driving out to Florida, I'm pretty sure, to go look at some guys or whatever, and I had a conversation with fellas that just hit me on the road. It was like, how do you love, what is it that you love what you do with the managing, with the financial situation, with being away all the time, with the back and forth traveling, is it worth it? Do you love it? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, absolutely I do. Highly recommend it. I'm thinking, because I still at the time don't know exactly what I want to do. And then I think on that road trip is whenever I made up my mind that I want to manage one day. So ever since that day, I kept picking his brain, and watching closer on what he does from an overall aspect versus just a pitching side or a bullpen side or whatever it may be. I really bought into that mindset of, I'll treat the games as if I were the manager in the dugout, putting scenarios in my head and watching how certain situations take place and how they evolve, from the approaches to the base running to the defense, how he's running the clubhouse, how he's organized, how he's taking care of the stuff with the front office. There's so much behind the scenes that people don't see that takes place on the field, and watching him take care of that every day. It really put in perspective of, okay, I feel confident I could do this, but I need to get better, I need to learn. So I just kept picking his brain, and then that's just kind of how it developed and how it happened.
Then he ends up becoming the pitching coach for Dennis Pelfrey, and the rest is history from there. So Chad, will go to you. I know you're somebody who you're, in fact, the only guy.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
I do it on the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm used to it at this point.
But I want to, what people don't realize is Bryan came in 2015 as the bullpen coach. About halfway through, we had a guy here that got himself in some trouble that I brought and got him out, and it worked out to where it was like a week overlap where we didn't have anybody and he was available to come. So that's where he got his taste as far as the pro ball coaching. But what people don't realize too is Bryan, at the time doesn't really know what he wants to do, and he kind of gets a taste of it, so he's dabbling in the college side. I think he even talked about being a teacher as well a little bit.
Mom was
his mom in there, and she's like, "Come here, do this." So you have to. There's a lot of sacrifices that are made, and I think that's what people don't realize. But he dove right into it and became a guy. And then the next year, instead of hiring him, making him the pitching coach, because he was a catcher, and you don't see this a whole lot. But I always thought in my mind, a catcher would be a good pitching coach, I think. But I brought in somebody else. To be the pitching coach in 2016 because Chad left us for the Marlins. Mistake on his part, I think. But I'm just kidding. No, it was very good. But it was well-deserved and all that. So I had to find somebody else. And halfway through the year, with the pitching staff we had a very good pitching staff. We were the worst team in the league in ERA. A lot of categories we were not very good at. So I made the decision to fire the pitching coach at the time and just promote B. White right then and there. And virtually the same pitching staff for the second half of the season, they had the best numbers in the league. So, testament to Bryan, and I think over the last 3 years, there's not been a pitching staff in the Frontier League that's been better than Bryan's as far as ERA and some of those other numbers. So, that's what he's missing in the story that he's not telling you because he's a little bit more humble. But I'll tell you because I'm not humble. I'll tell you exactly. He's really good. So
No, that's a good point. I'm glad you did bring it up. One thing you're uncanny with, too, B. White, on the topic is anytime you go out to the mound, whatever was not working for the pitcher gets fixed immediately. Your mound visits are legendary in Florence. I've seen it the last 4 years. You always seem to iron out those kinks immediately, and you see the best of that pitcher right when you walk back into the dugout. So you're incredible with that, and we're all very happy that you got the gig here in Florence, and we know that the skies are bright ahead, for sure.
Thank you.
No problem. So we'll take it back to Chad now, if Pelf will allow.
yeah, I think we do that.
Okay. No, so you're the only guy sitting in this room right now with affiliated playing experience. And you had 2 years of AA experience in the Boston Red Sox organization. Early 2000s, 2004, I believe, they break the curse of the Babe. They end up going to, I think, 3 playoffs in the next 4 years. So you're in that Boston Red Sox system during a time where Boston's cooking. It's probably difficult to move up the ranks, but you're playing with a bunch of guys that became household names. You were the youngest guy in AA your first year there, shoving, dominating, with a bright future ahead. And I know you talked about it off air a couple days ago, kind of how your experiences in AA with the Red Sox and your career in their organization is what kind of got you thinking about becoming a coach.
Yeah, it started there towards the end of it. I think it was when I saw that I kind of threw away an opportunity that I had to really be able to get to the level I wanted to get at. My window was short. And I was a free agent type of sign, so there wasn't a whole lot of leeway to mess around or to have a bad season. And I didn't necessarily have a bad season, but I stopped working. I will say that I stopped working the way that you really need to work to be able to get there. And I think it's imperative to be able to, if you want something, to go all out for it. And that kind of faded away from my mind, and because I was at a spot, I'm log jammed up. Red Sox guys, first rounders, millionaires, guys in the big leagues are still playing right now that I was living with, and it was kind of a culture shock for me coming from a smaller place. But after I was able to realize that and see it, it made it easier for me just to already see, in my future, it's like, I can go back and help other guys. You not do what I did. So going through all that stuff, I have zero regrets about my playing career. The affiliate experience and stuff is it didn't really mean anything to me. It gave me experience to be able to go through more situations and see more things and be in more spots that I can coach from. So I take all those experiences, the good and the bad, and use those with these guys. I mean, they all hear some stories, and they're not necessarily personal stories about myself and my career, but I know the same instances, and I know the same stuff they're going through, whether it's off the field stuff, whether it's on the field, the way they're thinking, what they're kind of chasing, and where their head's at. And it's easy for me to see because I've been there. Like, I'll peg them. Like, I'll nail these guys on the head. Like, I'll have a conversation with them. I'll say 2 sentences, like he's like reading my soul. And I was like, man, the only reason I can say that to you is because I've been there. It's like, I know what it feels like. I know that. Do this, not that. So able to give guys direction, and that's always something that I use that experience for.
From the grave we talk about, right?
From the grave, yeah. My playing career's over. It's dead. So I am from the grave to help you, with yours. And I think something that we're all here about is we want to coach men. We want to coach men, not boys. And so trying to leave these guys a lasting impression, I think Pope said it last week on the other game report, it's being able to leave them with something that they can look back on and apply to their lives, to their family, to anything. If they can be successful and have an idea of what they're doing out here, then that's what baseball means to me. I don't expect every single guy to stay in baseball for his whole life and be a coach and want to grind it out. And, it's a tough, hard life. I mean, it's tough. So being away from family and the time you spend, I think that's what here creates that culture. It's because there's so much invested, from your own life into these guys. It's like it makes yourself thin, it wears you down a little bit. So I'm kind of glad it's over. I mean, it was a short, really, expedited season in this small amount of time, but it was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work. I'm glad I want to hang out, man. I want to sleep in a couple of days, and I just want to relax, But it was worth it as far as the guys and the lasting impression we left. As far as yesterday, man, we couldn't get out of there after the popping champagne because every single dude wanted to come up and say thanks to all of us, and it was It's like, I get it, guys. I love you too. It's like, I've been with you, man, for the past 2 months. Like, I love you. But I don't have any more times to tell you how much I care and love you. But that was what creates that culture, and and go back to my career. I wanted that, and so I kind of give these guys exactly what I would want, and what I needed. And so some guys listen, some guys don't, but I think everybody comes away better.
I think the hours that you guys poured in played out through the performances we saw on the field night in and night out with the guys in Florence this year. Again, they were the top team in the regular season, top 2 teams in the regular season, and then they win the Battle of the Bourbon Trail Championship Series. So all your efforts were strongly rewarded. Pelf, you're a guy, we talked about it on last year's Dennis Pelfrey show. We kind of got into your background in coaching. You were a little bit jaded at the sport of baseball after your playing career was over. You weren't so sure right away that you were going to be a coach.
No, I wasn't. And looking back on it now, I know that I wasn't a very good player. I didn't have the talent. I did some things, differently as far as what I brought to the table mentally and how I played the game and things like that. That's what kept me in there a little bit. But I got away from the game for a couple of years in construction. I was a project engineer. One of the kids I was coaching in college while I was playing softball. While I was playing in the Frontier League in the off season, I was an assistant coach at the college I went to at Northwood University, and one of the kids I coached, his dad owned this big-time construction company called Precept Builders in Dallas, and called me up and asked me if I was done playing and I wanted a job, and I was like, sure. What's the job? Project engineer. Had no idea what it was, no idea about construction. He said, "Oh, you'll be all right. You're a leader, so you'll be all right." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." So, was doing really well with the job, making a lot of money. Sent me to Miami to build this high rise. But at a certain point, it got to be, baseball. I keep thinking about baseball. So then I started thinking about, well, maybe I should be a firefighter because that has some competition. So I started that process. When I got back from Miami, still working for the construction company, but I wasn't happy there. I liked it. I liked the money, and it was interesting. I was learning a lot of things. Now I can do anything in my house. My wife loves that. I can build anything or fix anything at the house because of my experience, which was great. But I just wasn't really happy. So got thrown into a situation where I was looked at it for a high school job, and one of the kids I coached was the JV coach there, and he's like, "Oh, we got this spot. Why don't you come coach?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know if I can do the high school thing. I'm a teacher, are you kidding me?" So
Mr. Pelfrey.
I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So I go interview, and the principal's like, "Yeah, we'll hire you." And the head baseball coach at the time, he's like, "Yeah, I like you, whatever." But he kept asking the other kids, he's like, "Is he gonna try to take my job?" And I'm like, "I just want to coach. I just want to be a part of something, man. Like, just help out. I don't need to be the guy, So I think he was worried about that. Maybe felt threatened by me or whatever. I have no idea, but it was kind of a weird deal. And then 3 years later, I remember, and I said this on the broadcast last night, Robert Davies. I know that Brian White knows him, and he was the athletic director at the time. The head coach had gotten fired at South Grand Prairie, and I was interviewing for the job. And then when they gave me the job, one of the things that resonated with me was, you're going to be not just a voice, you're going to be the voice. And that kind of, it's very simple and a very easy thing to say, but it's really huge in my mind on what that really means. And so I took that and kind of ran with it and created my own type of style and atmosphere, because, Brian will tell you, the atmosphere and the culture that was at South Grand Prairie at that time was absolutely terrible. And, I was not happy at all. But over the next 6 years, created an awesome culture, won a lot of games, got Chad in there as a pitching coach, had Joe Beck. He's a guy that I don't think I've ever mentioned, but he's a guy who is a big-time baseball guy. He's now assistant principal in South Grand Prairie in that district or whatever. But so we had a really good coaching staff, created an awesome culture. But, for the last 4 years of me being the head coach there, I was coming to Gary as the hitting coach, so I was doing double duty with the family and just kind of going back and forth, trying to balance the school, because they overlap the season. At the end of the school year overlaps, the beginning of the school year overlaps. So I was flying back and forth, using my sick days, and it was tough for me as far as that goes. But I started thinking, I give myself 5 years doing that in Gary. If I didn't get a managing job, then I was just going to face it and just be a high school teacher / coach, which I enjoyed. I didn't love it. I felt like I had gotten everything I could get out of those kids. I couldn't do anything more. And so I was kind of at the limits there. So I always want to be better and see how good I can really be. So the next step is managing in pro ball, and fortunate for me, Florence gave me the opportunity in 2015 to do that, and now I'm got myself into affiliated baseball somehow, and so now I get to see how good I am at that level.
Follow your dreams, kids. Follow your dreams. You never know. One thing can lead to the next, and now from being a teacher and a high school coach to managing the San Jose Giants Advanced A affiliate and the Giants organization is special. It's cool, and it's the storylines that always seem to be happening around professional baseball, which is why I love this opportunity and this position so much. Getting to meet guys like these three and hearing their stories and watching them continue to progress into their futures is one of the best parts about my job. So as we start to wind down this championship edition, which is a championship for the players in the field, but a championship that I think was awarded to the coaching staff as well for the way you guys grinded through this battle of the Bourbon Trail with the top teams and ultimately bringing home the trophy. You guys would have taken home the hardware for the best coaching staff, no question about it. I want to know, and the fans probably want to know, what, as you look 10 years into the future, back on this 2020 season, COVID ruined professional baseball, but you got the opportunity to coach in the battle of the Bourbon Trail. What will this season mean to you in the future? What does it mean to you right now? We'll start with you, Bryan.
If I could put a word on it, adversity, I guess. Being able to face adversity, but still making the best of the situation. And again, it starts with David and the front office being able to put something like this together. All three of us were very thankful that we got to get out of the house and come play real baseball with real fans and a real front office and a real season. But being able to almost start from scratch with this thing, not having a real roster set, having to recruit from the ground up. The work that these guys put into being able to grab players. Our trainer was able to grab some players as well, Bryan Jett. And, just being able to come together and show unity and grab guys from different parts of the country and make this happen. Well, it was a very, we're very blessed to be able to do that and be able to, take another season on our belt. We told the players, you're a step ahead of everybody else that's sitting at home right now. It's no different from us. I think we got a step ahead of other coaches and managers that are sitting at home right now that, are taking a year off, and we get to keep it fresh. So very, very thankful for all that.
Chad, what will this season mean to you in the future, man?
It's going to mean something, but Jett's weirding me out. Sit down, Jett.
Oh, Jett makes his appearance.
Special.
Yeah. He was the star of episode
Twins.
6 without even being on.
Support my
episode
Texas friends.
6. So the great trainer. In fact, trainer of the year, Bryan Jett.
Roommates. He goes roommates.
Now. Yeah, my
Yeah,
roommate
yeah,
on the road when the typical season unfolds.
Yeah.
But the season, I think, for me, is going to be more, especially in the future, it's going to be keeping up with some of those guys and seeing what it meant to them. Because when you talk about the adversity and some of these guys coming in with zero experience, what I wanted to do was I want to add up all the affiliated at-bats and innings on the Lexington side. I want to add up all the affiliated at-bats and innings on our side. And I want to add those up, and I want to look at the numbers, and I want to see, how much more they had, but it's just a point to prove to our guys that you do things right. You care about it, you put your work in. It doesn't matter what you're up against. It doesn't matter. If you do your thing, and you got other people around you that are pulling for the same way, man, you're gonna come out on top. But keeping up with some of these guys, I think that's what's going to be fun for me, because in 10 years, hopefully they're starting some families and they're in a good spot, and being able to see that it's stemming from this. So that's, to me, is what the bigger picture, and, I don't really get caught up in it. Like yesterday, I expected to win. So it's like guys were asking, why you got there pop bottles and, I'm jumping up and down. I was like, I expect to win, man. It's like, either you love to win or you hate to lose, and I hate to lose. I expect to win. So it's to me a bigger picture of what it meant for those guys. It was more for them, and so I want to check up on them later in the future and see what they remembered. So to me, the memories I made are in all the conversations and in all the guys' numbers and all the guys that are going to be blowing me up and all that. That's what means more than just the season itself, but without the season, I wouldn't be able to have that. So this was awesome. You couldn't ask for better. I've done a couple of these winter leagues, and I wouldn't go back to the other ones at all. I wouldn't be a part of some of those. It was the structure. It was the professionalism. It was being able to do the game report. It was being able to go up in the booth and broadcast. It's being able to have conversations with an owner and being able to go in the front office and not feel awkward and not feel like there is some kind of tension or whatever, and being able to come to the clubhouse, and Jett was here in 15, so it was good to see Jett. We kept in touch too. It was really cool.
Well, I've got your phone number now.
You got
so I'll be reaching out to you.
Just give it out.
We're buddies now.
Not creepy at all.
Added one more to the Wolfpack. No, Chad Rhodes is the man.
Check up in 10 years.
Yeah, I won't talk to you about Cowboys football though. I've learned my lesson the hard way on the air about that.
That one got lucky yesterday.
No, the cream rose just like it did in Florence.
Hey, we got to grill Jett real quick. We'll get to your thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Get him.
Get him. What you got? I just want to let you sit there for a second.
Oh, I thought you had a question for me. I was waiting for a question.
No, I'm letting one stir up in my head.
Oh. So maybe we'll let him think about his question, and we'll just ask Pelf what the Battle of the Bourbon Trail meant to you.
10 years. Well, what it meant to me. I thought it was.
Well, you said this. You said yesterday this was the most fun season you've ever been a part of, and that counts all the professional.
It's the now. They're here in the now.
So maybe already.
I like to
this
live in
season
the now.
is.
No, this season is. It was incredible. It was fun, stressful, long, all those things that I want in the season, and. So my wife yells at me, "Oh, you can't be doing it all the time." Yes, we are. It is like it is continuous, and I think Chad said it best. The investment that's put in, that's what most. I'll say it. Most coaches don't put in the investment, especially in independent baseball. The investment and time is not put into their craft. It's almost like throw the balls out, and just go play and see what happens. Where. This is important to me. This is my life. This is my craft. This is everything about me is this game, and it's so that's what makes it important to me. So, what it means to me is, other than my wife and my son and my daughter, it's everything, right? So, everything I do is tied off of things that I've learned from this game, and this is just another step, another experience that adds to a Rolodex I have up here that has a lot of different crazy stuff in it, so that I can continue to pull from. But 10 years from now, I'd like to see how many of these guys are in the big leagues and how many of them have a big league career, and I think there's going to be a few of them. And then the other thing is, I think it should, at that time, 10 years from now, it'll be about 6 years of the Pelfrey tiebreaker rule in the big leagues to see how well people really do like it, and I think it's going to be a huge success. So I can't thank everybody enough for what we've been able to accomplish here, and it's really not about me or the coaches. It's about those players and about everybody behind the scenes, these guys behind the cameras, making this thing happen and being that support system. So it's been incredible.
Well, before I put the bow on the final installment of the game report for the 2020 season, we'll go back to Chad here, who might have a question conjured up for Jett.
No.
Still
not.
not.
Sit, Jett. Sit there and bake.
Just bake.
Just look awkward.
Jett,
Well, Jett, go ahead. We'll say something on this edition.
Yeah.
What part of the season mean to you, man? You got to be on the field. And
you talk about the connection, like, he was here in Florence before
Right.
I showed up.
the continuity continues with Bryan Jett sitting right here.
As I said last night, it's like we brought the band back together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, normally he wasn't supposed to be here this year. It was supposed to be me and B. White, and he was supposed to be here this year. But, bring everybody back together, before he goes off and does his thing. It was actually really nice. It was almost kind of like, we always joke and call Pelf Dad because he's old. So, like, Dad was mentoring the kids and, letting the kids go back out in the wild, kind of getting his feet wet over here as a manager. So, he'll be gone next year over in California, and then you get the reins, brother.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Brother B. White taking over. So, and it's always great to have Chad back. And like he said, we did keep in touch since he has left after 15. But it was great to have him back because he's so knowledgeable. And one of my favorite things is literally to just sit either with Chad in the bullpen and listen to him talk and break down people to where, I was not a pitcher, so I don't have that mechanical breakdown, but I can see listening to him what it's supposed to be like. So that helps me in my career. If this guy's spraying one way, maybe it's not a shoulder injury, maybe it's just a mechanical issue. So it's always good to pick his brain and, talk to Pelf and B. White and just sit in the office and talk baseball, talk life.
I'll let Chad fool you. He's got the hands moving all the time. He's like a magician, making you look over
Yeah.
here when he's saying this, and it's like, oh,
100%. Boom.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only thought going on my head, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
hopefully it comes out.
Jet, does that make sense? I mean, and I go, yeah, I understand it, but like, I can't do it because I'm not a baseball player.
Well, I know from firsthand experience, I thoroughly enjoyed you coming on the broadcast when you would, Chad, when the Freedom and the Y'alls played together here at UC Health Stadium. That knowledge would come through on the broadcast, game in and game out. Same with Pelf these last 3 days in Lexington. Got better with each rep. Became quite the color commentator by the end of that championship series. And
I got some things to work on.
some things, but maybe we'll get the chance in the future.
Yeah, on this drive home, I'm going to listen to myself,
Okay.
critique myself.
They do
get better.
archives, so they're right there.
Just like I do everything else, I'm going to become the best, so I'm coming after your job later. We'll see.
Well, hopefully you won't need to be in a position looking for a broadcasting job. But no, that'll wrap things up for this edition of the Game Report. What a year it was. I do want to say some thank yous. First to Dennis Pelfrey, Brian White, Chad Rhodes for doing this all season long. I know that the players would watch. I know that their families would watch. And selfishly, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching and getting to learn the game as you guys see it. You brought an element of expertise that I couldn't have done, putting something together without your guys' abilities as coaches and communicators to parlay that on to Florence Nation. So thank you so much for always being accessible, whether it was wearing the live mic during games. A lot of coaches wouldn't do that. And I was talking about that with Pelf just yesterday. But you guys gave me just open door access all season long. Cannot thank you enough for that. I think it adds something for the fans at home and for the players as well. But selfishly, as a broadcaster, it means a lot. So thank you very much for that. And ultimately, thank you, David DelBello, the owner of the Florence Y'alls, who is sitting here still behind the camera now. Didn't have a good spot for him set up. That's an error on my part today. But, man, what an opportunity this was for everybody sitting here, whether it was a coach, whether it was a player, whether it was a broadcaster. A lot of professional teams are at home right now. They're not here. They're not getting to play baseball. They're looking for something else to do. But that was never going to be an option here in Florence, and that's because we have a strong leader in David DelBello, who kept our doors open, kept employees on the payroll, and just cannot thank him enough for the opportunity to come to work every day during a global pandemic and put together a game report with guys like this and ultimately to watch baseball at night. I mean, it's been an incredible season, and it ended the way you would want it to end. A championship in Florence, Battle of Bourbon Trail Champions, 2-1 over Lexington this past weekend. We talked a little bit about it, but I wanted you guys to get to know the coaches. This is the A crew from 2020, and what a fantastic year it was. So thank you to everybody sitting in this room. What a magical year it's been. And champions in Florence, we are.